Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is a Monday as we return to work after the holidays, and all of our guests today, sponsored by Passant Motors. It's the new year. New ride event at Passant Motors. Looking to upgrade your ride? Check out the deals at Passant Motors. Learn more at Passant Motors, BASANT Motors.com. As we're joined now from Hockey Night in Canada, 32 Thoughts podcast, and Sportsnet.ca, Elliotte Friedman. Elliotte, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Good hair day today. Good hair day for me
looking
today.
good.
Got a haircut.
Oh, very nice.
You've got hair. Okay, be happy. All right.
Not a lot of it, but I've got it.
Be thankful. Be thankful.
Well, I'm jealous. Hey, Elliotte, any chance all this it's still going on here, buddy? You know that. This Pettersson, Miller, any chance it blows over and both of them stay?
Yeah, I know. Like, so I have buddies who live in Vancouver, and my buddies were sending me texts of all the social media posts ripping me for saying anything could happen. It was pretty funny. They really love it when Vancouver tears into me. I think honestly, the reason I spelled it out that way, Donnie, is that I think we have to be prepared for anything here. And I saw some of the quotes today, and I thought that Ian wrote another really good piece with Pettersson today. And I saw Hughes's quote yesterday about how we have to see if, like, when he's talking about the Canucks, if we play better, probably a lot of this goes away, and a lot of the noise certainly would. But I do think the Canucks are walking through their options here, and we're going to see where this goes. I think that. The one thing is I hear people say, and people send me clips, or I see clips online, they're not going to do this or they're not going to do that. I think it is unwise to assume anything. I think at the very least, they're going through their options, and what they determine is actually out there. Like, look, there's going to be people who are not interested. There's going to be people who are going to kick the tires. There's going to be people who are going to ask, are you really serious? I heard a lot of that on the weekend. And there's people who are eventually going to determine that the Canucks are serious, or they're serious, and they're going to make an offer. And when we get to that, that's when the moment of truth is going to come. But like I said, I think right now to say they won't do this or they won't do that, or they will do this or they won't do that, I think you're making an assumption that you shouldn't be making.
Elliotte, I'm going to put you on the spot here, but can you remember anything like this in the National Hockey League where two star players on a team weren't getting along, or reportedly weren't getting along, and they stayed and it all worked out?
Well, I mean, the one I actually remember is not star players, it's player coach. It was Vincent LeCavalier and John Tortorella in Tampa. That's the one I remember really well, where Jay Feaster sat them both down. And said, guys, like, I think both of you are great at what you do, and neither one of you is going anywhere. And he did that. I'll tell you one story. It's the story I remember the most. I covered two players in Toronto, and I knew they didn't like each other. And they kept it private, but they didn't like each other. And one got run over during a game, and the other one came and fought the guy who ran him over. And I remember going to him privately and saying, I thought you didn't like that guy. And he goes, well, when he's on the ice, he's my teammate. And that's what I'm there to do. And when the puck drops, you forget all that stuff. Don, you and I are of the age, I can't remember how old you are, Rick, but you and I are of the age where, the Oakland A's won 3 consecutive World Series and in the 70s, and they all hated each other.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, I remember talking to a coach in the CFL who told me that when the BC Lions won the Grey Cup in early 2000s, they beat Montreal for the Grey Cup. I can't remember what year that was. One of the coaches told me he never was successful on a team where players hated each other like that BC Lions team. So that one just popped back into my head right now as you ask the question.
Well, that was 2000, and you were at that game, Rick, and I hung out with you that year.
That's right.
That's right. I remember
in
that.
Calgary.
Yeah,
we were in Calgary.
Right.
What did you get up to Friday night
that
there, Rick?
BC Lions team hated each other. They hated each other, and they still won.
That was Drummond, Millington, Damon Allen.
You had a fun time on Friday night.
I had a fun time on Friday night. No comment. Will you back off on that? Elliotte.
Well, I can tell you this. I called Rick on Saturday morning, and Rick likes to wake up early. I could tell on Saturday morning that he was still very groggy and still in bed. Yeah. And I was too busy to ask, Rick, what did you get up to last night?
No comment. Let's move on. Elliotte, JT Miller, I got to ask you. First, the leave of absence, right? Yeah. Now all this Pettersson Miller stuff, and then, now his name's in trade rumors. I mean, where do you think his thinking is with what's going on this year, his future in Vancouver? I mean, I reported this morning, and we both have, that he has not asked for a trade, and I don't think he will. But, I mean, at some point, does he start to wonder about, this has not been a good year for him on or off the ice?
No, he's struggled. I mean, I've seen the stats. Obviously, I've watched the games, and he has struggled scoring. And I don't think there's any doubt that this whole situation has worn out a lot of people, including himself. Mm-hmm. I don't think JT Miller needs to ask for a trade to go down that road. I think he knows that it's possible, and we'll see what happens. I as I said on the pod this morning, I would be hopeful if I was in that situation that things could be fixed, but not every situation can be fixed. And that's that right now it's in the Canucks' hands to make that decision. And I just think that, I think the Canucks know that if it does come to that they kind of have an idea, these teams aren't stupid. They know what situations are good and what situations aren't good, and what the chances a player with Miller's clauses would accept or not accept. So I think if they get something they like, they can weigh it and say, do we think he'd like that? And I think you'll know deep down, if you're being honest with yourself, about whether he would or he wouldn't. And, I think everybody here recognizes that it's kind of in the Canucks' hands right now, and nobody knows for sure what's going to happen. But half of it will be determined by Vancouver, and half of it will be determined by the market.
Here's the funny thing, Elliotte. Not only are they taking calls on Pettersson and Miller, but they're looking for a top four defenseman. As you can tell, their first pair is out. Not many teams in the NHL can live without a first pair. These are 24, 25-minute guys a night. How tough is it right now on that market to get a top 4D? It's got to be super tough.
Well, as I reported on Saturday, Rick, that if they do make a deal with one of these players, they're looking for a center because they're going to be losing one, so they need one. So someone else was kind of laughing about it with me. It's if you're Vancouver, you're looking for a center and you're looking for a D. Talk about the two toughest things in the league to find.
Yep.
If you have those, you're not generally giving up those. I mean, the one thing about is it looked like I saw talk, like he said, it looks like Hughes is going to play tonight, and at least you're getting Roenick back. It's not like you've completely lost this player. He's going to play for you again. Sometimes Rick, sometimes the answer, people may not like this, and I'm sure Vancouver will try to make it so that's not the case. But sometimes you just have to find your way through it. Mm-hmm. Nobody's especially when you're a team that's battling for a playoff spot, there's not a lot of teams that are really looking to help you. There's a lot of teams that are still in the race. There's a lot of teams who see you from a point of weakness, and they try to extort. What's my old line? They don't throw you a life preserver, they throw you an anvil. When you're weak, those are the most difficult trades to make. So, I mean, yes, I think they're looking. I don't think that if they make a deal with one of the big players, they'll be going for a center, maybe a D2. But I think they're looking. But you might just have to deal with what you've got until Roenick is ready to play.
And Elliotte, Canucks starting off a 5-game road trip tonight in Montreal. How would you describe the state of the Habs right now? I believe they're 7-2 in their last 9 games. Yes. They've got a ton of prospects. That has to be good for the National Hockey League, does it not? Not just Montreal, but the whole NHL.
Well, first of all, as a guy who roots for the Canadian teams, I like to see the Canadian teams do well. So I'm with you on this. They did that one of the wildest road trips I've ever seen, Donnie. Like they go out, they beat the last four Stanley Cup
Yes.
champions, they lose to Chicago. It's kind of a funny trip, but I think three things have happened. Montembeault was exhausted; they wouldn't play Primo. Now Dobish has given them a couple of really good starts, so the goalie's a bit more rested. I know Lonnie has been sick lately, but the easiest way to score is the power play, and he has revitalized theirs. And also the Carrier deal. Like they just have players slotted in better on the blue line. Those three moves have given them a better roster. But the other thing too, Don, is that their worst games of the year they've played at home. Gord Stellick always had a rule: if you're going to stink on the road. The Canadians have to start rewarding their home fans a little bit here. And that building is going to be wired because of the road trip they just had.
Elliotte, above and beyond, hair looks great. Thanks so much for this. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
All right, guys. I want to go back on my Canucks moratorium, so I hope I can.
Good luck with that, buddy.
Nice
Take
try.
care, guys.
Nice try.
Yeah.
Nice try.